Hey there, everybody. Today I'm going to be discussing the topic of how to plot longitude and latitude coordinates on a map, specifically a folio map, and visualize the change in position over time. So we're going to be looking at New York City taxi routes over a period of time and how the taxis move throughout New York City. So using folio maps with a time component, sometimes known as a temporal component, is beneficial for many different scenarios. It helps you to visualize the evolution of changing data points on a time. This tool combines a heat map and a time slider so you can see in an animated fashion how things are changing. So it's very interesting. I think it's quite intriguing how this stuff really works. So just to set the expectations for today, we're going to be talking about temporal data. This is time series data. Time series can be anything from moving taxi cabs, obviously, to retail sales, weather patterns, stock price movements, right? Anything that's time series based. Very user-friendly interaction, very intuitive. There's many applications for this type of thing. Anything that is time series oriented, that can be plotted on a map. Any kind of truck movement, airplane departures and arrival, people migrating from one place to another place, traveling, anything like that can be plotted on the map. And it really creates a very compelling and enhanced story for your end user or your stakeholder, whoever you're interacting with. And it also helps to make improved decision-making because you have more intelligence at your fingertips and you're exposed to a lot of things in this visual type of plotting and charting world that you wouldn't necessarily get. You certainly wouldn't get if you're just looking at a static data set. Okay, so let me go ahead and load two data sets together. We have a training set and a testing set. This is pretty common in the machine learning world. You always have a training set about 70 to 80%, and the testing set is the balance of that, so about 20 to 30%. Okay, this is the data that we're looking at. You can see this data set is pretty much a behemoth, right? So we have 1.45 million records. So that's pretty big. On my laptop, this scenario is not going to complete as is. So I'm going to take a smaller subset. I'm going to take a 20% random sample of the original data set. So this is a smaller data set, but it's going to make it much easier to work with. I don't even know if the full data set would even run on my machine. Probably not, but this will certainly work, okay? And the data is pretty normally distributed, so I'm comfortable with a smaller data set. If it was highly skewed, it would be more, I guess, speculative if we would actually have a normal distribution. We wouldn't have a normal distribution. It would be more questionable if we would pick more samples from the long tail or from the peak if it was skewed one way or the other. But in this case, I think we're fine. We're good to go with this. So now we have a much smaller, more manageable data set to work with. I'm parsing out the month, week, day, and hour from the date time, from the pickup date time. If we go up here, we can see the pickup date time right here. Okay, so we have the date and the time, just like it's described. We can see the year, month, day, and then the hour of the day in 24-hour format. Now, if we had this parsed out, the hour and the minute and the month and the week, then we wouldn't have to create these new features. You don't have it, so we have to create new features that are going to be appended onto the same data frame, just over to the right. Okay, so when you create new features, they always go over to the right. I'll show you what it looks like. Month, week, day, hour. So good, we're good to go. Okay, now we generate a base map. There's all kinds of documentation online to explain how this works on the Folium website. I'm not going to get into all the technical details because the video would drag on and on, but suffice it to say, there's lots of documentation. I'm also going to save this file and load this onto Google Drive, so you have a copy of this exact code. You can copy and run it in your own Jupyter notebook. It's going to run as is, as long as you have all the libraries. If you don't, just import the library and it will run, okay? So you don't have to worry about all the nuances, all the details. I'll show you in just a moment the real thing to really focus on. We created the new features, right? The time, week, month features. So you can see here in this heat map, if we zoom in or zoom out, the concentration, a lot of this taxi cab activity is in Midtown Manhattan. You have some in Queens, but the real concentration is in Manhattan, right? So that's what this heat map is showing us. It's pretty nice. Again, folio maps are very interactive. They have extreme detail. If I want to go zoom into what is this neighborhood? Probably Chelsea. What are we looking at here? 15th Street, Lower East Side. Yeah, Union Square. Okay, so just to show you how cool this stuff is, you have extreme detail here of Union Square. This is just one small section and just a little bit south of Midtown Manhattan. You have the names of the streets, even one-way streets. You have some information about the park here. I see actually names of restaurants, bars, so all kinds of information. The details are all there embedded into these volume maps. So it's really pretty cool tool to play around. Let's go down a little bit more. I think we're almost at the heat map portion of this, okay? And we're gonna see some really cool stuff. So we have to create a list. I just called it DF hour list, and we are going to append pick up latitude, pick up longitude, and count all of these, okay? So we can see where the activity is, and then group by the pick up latitude and pick up longitude, and then sum the results, okay? And we're going to put all of that into this list over here, DF hour list, okay? So let's go ahead and populate that variable, Control Enter to run it. And then after all the homework is done, we are able to refresh our heat map with time in a full name environment and see how this thing looks. This is pretty cool. I think you're going to be impressed. Okay. And of course, all of these variables are pretty flexible, and you pick and choose what you want. Anything that's time series, anything that has latitude, longitude, you can plug this in. You can plug in your specific data and get the customized results that you need, right? So this is a pretty cool example. It's just a hypothetical. Like, I don't know if you were really going to be needing to plot taxi data, but anything that moves, that migrates, that changes over time, you can do that. All you have to do is substitute your specific data into this data frame list over here. I'm sorry, this list over here, and then copy these variables. It's just a couple of parameters that you're going to have to change, right? As long as it matches your specific data set, this will work. So pretty flexible, pretty customizable. Let me go down here to the play button and see the results. Here we go. The taxis are moving all over the place, right? So kind of cool, kind of neat. I like that. And if I zoom in, you can see more granular detail throughout the day, right? Throughout the hours of the day, the weeks of the month, and the month of the year. So pretty cool stuff, pretty cool. And then you can do all kinds of things. Really, the sky's the limit with this. I tell people all the time, the only limitation is your own imagination. So figure out what you want to do. And these Folio maps are pretty powerful, pretty scalable, and I can pretty much guarantee you're going to be able to do it. You might have to do a little customization and a little massaging of the data, but as long as it's temporal, which is time series data, and you have those lat long coordinates, you can do anything you want to do. The one obvious thing, or a couple obvious things I would think about, is if you want to track changing population sizes over time, you can make the population relative to the size of the circle. So the circles can increase and decrease over time. You can have concentrations of people taking vacations in certain places around the world, around the United States. You can see the migration pattern of tourists, of groups of individuals, anything like sports teams moving around, anything that moves and changes with latitude and longitude and has a time series pattern, you can plot it. So that's pretty much it. Let me just make sure that data sources are down here. I always like to share that with people just so you have what you need. Yeah, okay, so you can get the data there. Just download it, plug it in, and that's it. Copy, paste the code, and you're good to go. And of course, after you get familiar with this and you're pretty comfortable and acquainted with the details, put in your own data, and you're going to get exactly what you need. You can do some really cool and interesting things. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully you guys learned something new today. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great day.